According to a 2006 World Bank report on the slums of Nairobi, Kenya, only 11% of slum dwellers have access to solid waste management services. For everyone else, the options are dumping in open spaces and burning of waste. Though many are aware of the health and environmental hazards that this type of dumping introduces, in immediate terms it is free. With private residential services costing in the range of $3 to $8 a month, traditional waste management services are unaffordable and as a result are not offered within low-income environments. With this in mind, the World Bank team set out to 1. Introduce a low-cost community-based solid waste management model that would be affordable to residents, and 2. To develop appropriate non-motorized vehicles that could complement the model by further reducing operational costs. The project developed its non-motorized vehicles in Nairobi's industrial area.
Test ride of the Indian rickshaw.
Oh, I'm not doing the bad.
Someone who does not have much experience riding rickshaws, and steering may be a little difficult to handle until you get used to it.
In everything, it looks as if it grabbed their eyes. It's the first time they have seen it, but it's good that they would like to know where it is being built, so that they could be able to purchase it.
World Bank determined that there are 3 types of non-motorized vehicles appropriate for solid waste management: handcarts, donkey carts, and rickshaws. Because vehicles used in solid waste management must be capable of carrying heavy loads over rough terrain, World Bank focused its energies on the development of a heavy-duty rickshaw and an improved handcart. The intent was that these would reduce operation costs over the Kenyan Mkokoteni handcart and donkey cart by increasing transport speeds and reducing upkeep costs. Ultimately, the project sought to create a reproducible model that could extend affordable solid waste management services to a vast number of low-income people. World Bank worked with 4 community groups in Kenya to initiate solid waste management businesses, 1 in Kibera in Nairobi, and 3 in the communities surrounding Lake Naivasha. Kibera is situated near downtown Nairobi, Kenya's capital, and is estimated to be one of the largest informal settlements in Africa. It is characterized by high population density, lack of land tenure, and poor infrastructure. The communities at Lake Naivasha are called Mirera Karagita and Kamere. They are former low-income communities that developed to house laborers working in the area's expansive cut flower industry.
Ways that we can use, again, non-motorized transport.
World Bank worked with the groups to develop their entrepreneurship skills and viable models for their businesses that would supply solid waste management services at a target price point of $0.25 per month per household. World Bank also assisted the groups to launch their businesses via awareness campaigns held in August 2009. At Lake Naivasha, World Bank worked with Kahato Environmental Agency, Lake Naivasha Disabled Environmental Group, and Mars Investment Group. Together, during the project period, the 3 groups were able to begin serving an additional 40 house plots or 2,720 people with solid waste management services, and are expected to continue to rapidly grow over the coming years.
We wanted to alleviate poverty amongst our members. We also wanted to correct the environmental degradation that has affected our community, especially Lake Naivasha and its environs. And we are looking forward to having over 200 of the 250 plots that exist in Kamere. This as a result of the support that we have received from World Bank, who have given us management trainings, capacity buildings, and financial support.
Besides the merit of their hard work, The groups at Lake Naivasha are complemented by an enabling environment in which landlords, politicians and local businesses provide active support in the form of infrastructure and subscription as customers.
We are doing our correction by the use of a rickshaw, which was being provided to us by World Bike. We do our corrections once per week on Wednesdays, so it is 4 times per month. We are just going closer, working closer to the government officers, advising the plot owners on how to take care of their plots through digging sock pits, which can be used to collect wastewaters from the plots, so to keep the environment clean.
In Kibera, World Bike worked with Soweto Youth Group. Despite being almost 100 years old, Kibera is an illegal settlement, meaning that none of the area's estimated 1 million inhabitants has legal land tenure. Structure owners invest minimally in order to continue to extract rents, but do not show interest in solid waste management services. Politics also are complex and too preoccupied to offer significant support to a small business. Soweto Youth Group attempted to provide services on a door-to-door basis, but found that the model required too much labor to be affordable and was inhibited by inconsistent payment by residents.
The challenge is maybe maintenance and maybe getting the customers to pay for the maintenance of the program. Like when we give the services, we expect some payment from the clients of the community that we are working with. So we have challenges to mobilize all this community so that they can be helpful, especially the financial part of it.
World Bike has advised the group in the future to lower their labor costs by providing roving communal dumping points and requiring customers to drop off their waste rather than paying laborers to conduct door-to-door collection. Rickshaws are seldom seen in Kenya and therefore are not widely known. Importation of rickshaws from India and China is possible, but the available vehicles are not supported by spare parts in Kenya, nor are they well suited to the rough terrain of the settlements.
This is the Indian rickshaw that sourced from India and we bought in Mombasa. And the first time it was tested, it was driven off a curb, and this wheel here, well, not this precise one, it crushed in on itself.
Importation is also relatively expensive in small quantities, meaning that high volume importation would be necessary in order to achieve a low price point in a business model. The rickshaw that World Bike developed was constructed from commonly available motorcycle and bicycle components. Its durability on the rough terrain of the settlements was satisfactory, but ultimately the design was limited by two factors. First, rough terrain limited the carrying capacity and speed of the vehicle so that it lost its advantages over handcarts or donkey carts. A rickshaw needs multiple gearing and a differential in order to be efficient on the rough terrain with large loads. Gearing adds expense and is difficult to maintain. Second, the design of the rickshaw was limited by the availability and cost of materials. Steel in needed dimensions was not accessible and components had to be purchased at retail prices. World Bike's final conclusion was that rickshaw production would be too costly and complicated to achieve on a small scale in Kenya. Instead, large-scale production or importation is a more viable model for introducing this technology to the Kenyan market. Handcarts have a reputation for being heavy and slow and for requiring lots of energy to operate. Indeed, the Kenyan traditional mkokoteni is an imposing vehicle. World Bike worked to develop a lighter weight handcart that would still be capable of withstanding heavy usage. Its first cart using bicycle wheels was not strong enough.
Kahato was hauling trash. About how full was it when the wheels buckled?
It said it was halfway full.
Halfway?
Yeah.